Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be ranking all 11 legendaries in the game right now, from the very worst all the way up to the very best. I'll also do a prediction on Kenji at the very end. Of course, it's pretty hard to put him in this list when he's not really out yet, but he's arriving pretty soon. So of course, we're going to be grinding and working out whether he's going to be meta. So we're going to be jumping into this. I've not done this for around half a year, so this is going to help you guys know who to unlock, whatever else. And it's actually pretty interesting just to see how the legendaries really fare off, because there's been some big shake-ups in this list, definitely. So we're going to be jumping into number 11, the worst legendary brawler in the game, in my opinion. I think it has to be Spike. So Spike used to be always Mr. Versatile. And again, this isn't saying that Spike is just terrible. I'd say he's maximum C-tier brawler in the meta right now. He just doesn't have the damage output to keep up with the meta what he used to have. I don't even think that he needed that 4% damage nerf. I think it was 4 or 5%. It just wasn't needed. Like, he was versatile in the most casual range, but he never really was a competitive brawler whatsoever. He was only used like a handful of times this year in competitive in comparison to all the other brawlers, so that really did push him down the meta. And then they buffed his HP, which again, that isn't the reason why you use Spike. Of course he's going to be squishy, that's his weakness, but his strength was always his damage, and he just doesn't do enough right now. There's just far too many brawlers that have hypercharges that are much better and just can overwhelm the opponent. You know, for example, why would you go Spike where you can just go Gale, Colette, Clancy? All of these brawlers at the top of the meta just make Spike just completely useless. But again, you can use him in most cases, but there's just better options. Okay, so now we're jumping into number 10, and we have Draco. So again, another brawler who used to be like at the top of this list, and he's just worked his way all the way down. So again, I'm not saying Draco is absolutely terrible, but in comparison to the other legendaries, he probably is. So I don't really find much use case for Draco. The main reason being is when I'm playing ranked, there's just always like a tank counter, and you can't really play Draco into them. Like, so many people go like Nita, they go Gale, they go Clancy, they go all of these things, and it's like impossible for Draco to go into them. But I will say, like, a good Draco can make plays. He's got a really broken gadget. His star power is pretty good in unison as well, and there is still some chances for some cheesy compositions. But I think as time goes on, and if he doesn't get a hypercharge anytime soon, but I just think he's going to keep dropping down the meta. So I just won't really invest in unlocking him right now. Now jumping into the 9th best legendary in the game right now, we have Leon. So again, for the casuals, Leon's still going to be a pretty good brawler, and he's pretty versatile. But then when you compare it to the competitive meta, there's just always a better option than Leon right now. Ever since they nerfed his damage at maximum range, and then also his supercharge rate, especially at maximum range, it's made him a lot harder to cycle through to his supers. Again, you can still play Leon, especially against his best matchups, which are going to be like snipers on bounty, whoever else, and bad players or just average player don't know how to fully counter Leon. So you'll always get that chance for Leon. So it's in around the C tier, I would say C/B, but for the most part, there is just a better option. Good players know how to counter him, they know not to feed his super, and they'll just be able to communicate when he pops his invisible. And of course, you need to be able to isolate brawlers in 1v1 to get kills with Leon, whilst good players, they'll group up and they'll be able to counter him. So I just think he's fallen down the ranking for sure. So next up, as the 8th best legendary in the game right now, I went with Crow. So another brawler which is just fairly balanced in the meta. He definitely has his strong points, which of course is going to be in Heist. The reason why he's played a lot in competitive is literally because of Heist. You can always get confirmed supers with Crow. It will take about a super and a bit to get his hypercharge one, and of course, if the high safe is below 50% HP, then if you use the carrying Crow star power, jump on top of the safe, you can literally delete 50% of it, which is insane. And with Crow, you're eventually going to get that hypercharge, as I said, but it's just a matter of whether the opponents can finish the safe before you get it in about 2 minutes. But yeah, Crow's still like usable in other situations as well. Like, he's good on grassy maps to scout the opposition, but I will say normally it's better options because it is a very rush in your face meta, and most of the time he doesn't have the damage to keep up. But yeah, his hypercharge is carrying him for sure. So now jumping into the 7th best legendary in the game right now, we have Amber. So I'm starting to see a bit of a drop off with Amber since they nerfed her Dancing Flames gadget. It's just made her not be able to respond to assassins as well. And if you take a look at the top meta brawlers, we have Mortis, we have Daryl, we have Mo, we have a lot of aggro, so Amber can't really deal with that as well as she could in previous metas, but she's still a fairly like consistent brawler. If you're unsure on who to go on like Hot Zone or Gem Grab, Brawl Ball, then you can pretty much always go in Amber, but I'm starting to see that there's starting to be a lot of better options than her at the moment, so I can definitely see her dropping off more. So next up, as the 6th best legendary in the game right now, we have Sandy. So Sandy used to be one of the best brawlers in the game, and then they nerfed his hyper charge rate, and Sandy's still a decent brawler, but I will say that it's just more so matchup dependent and very map dependent. So with Sandy, you definitely need a grassy map, because you need a map like center stage, double swoosh, where of course your wall peeking capabilities are going to be used to great effect, but where your super is going to get the most value, because it still takes some time to get through to that hyper charge. And of course that's the best thing about Sandy, that hyper charge super is so good, it can literally win you games, but good players will not feed it Sandy whatsoever, especially in this type of meta. And of course with just so many assassins in the meta, yeah, you're going to get Sandy supers, but you're also going to get destroyed because you don't have the DPS to keep up. So that's why in like some videos I'm saying that Sandy is overrated, because people just pick Sandy so early in the draft, whilst good players know how to counter it. So next up is the 5th best legendary in the game right now, we have Cordelius, and Cordelius is always Mr. Consistent. If you're looking for a brawler who will pretty much never drop off in the meta, then I think it has to be Cordelius. So he's got a lot of good things going for him. I like to play him in like Heist, Hot Zone, Gem Grab, Brawl, literally every situation. He's a great counter to some of the meta brawlers as well. If you're looking to counter the kit synergy, then you can easily go Cordelius, just put whoever kit's jumping on top of into the Shadow Realm, and then you can counter them like that. The jump gadget's going to be really good and super versatile to take down snipers, throwers, etc. That's why I always love using Cordelius in like Pinball Dreams, for example, because he's so good at countering throwers and also those assassins. Of course with Cordelius as well, he's got a pretty good hypercharge. Takes a while to get through to it, but that hypercharge just means a guaranteed kill, which can be the difference maker, especially late game. So yeah, Cordelius always super consistent and will always be in and around the A tier. So jumping into the 4th best legendary brawler in the game right now, we have Kit. So Kit is a brawler that I don't see many people talk about too much. I know people probably just think that Kit's just a good brawler in general, but Kit is just so good at those cheesy strategies. Of course, Kit does a lot of damage as well. 2000 is pretty good, but it's mainly just those cheesy strategies that Kit enables. So for example, like Daryl, Draco in Knockout. Basically, Kit with anything in Knockout is just so hard to stop, and you can of course abuse his strategy even more in different scenarios. You've also got the cheesy strategy going on in the SpongeBob modifier, which is going to make Kit even better. And there's just so much cheese going on. If you play Showdown, Kit is really strong there. If you play Duels, Kit's strong there. It's just Kit meta infinitely, so yeah, definitely recommend getting Kit. Okay, so now we're jumping into the top 3. Starting off at number 3, we have Surge. So Surge is just so good in this meta. Nothing about him is like broken, but a good Surge will definitely be able to make the difference. I remember when Surge was near the bottom of this list, and then he seemed to get a few HP buffs, and then of course now he's got a hypercharge as well. He's just an all-round beast. So one thing to consider, you can't just pick Surge as the first pick in rank, for example, because good players will be able to just keep their distance, but there's just so many good matchups for Surge. You're thinking of all these grassy maps like center stage, double swoosh, any Brawl Ball map, you can get a lot of value out of Surge. Again, his hypercharge isn't anything broken, but it's still pretty good. If you use it at the right time, you can get a couple of kills or at least get a lot of pressure, especially because you can literally shoot around walls, which is a broken mechanic. There's just a lot of good things going for Surge, and in terms of ranked, he's always my carry pick. I seem to always get star player with Surge. He's definitely a really good brawler in this meta, and I recommend getting him because he's very fun. So now jumping into the 2nd best legendary brawler in the game right now, we have Meg. So she received a damage nerf after the rework, but it just seems to be this common cycle with Meg where she gets a rework every year, she's like busted, and then they just slowly nerf her and she just seems to be manageable. But right now she's still in her busted state. I think she's still like a top 5 brawler in the game right now because the damage that she provides is just absolutely insane. As soon as you lock onto someone, it's crazy. You've got 8k HP as well, and I think the most toxic combination about Meg is the fact that she feels unkillable. Like, of course, if she gets into range, she's going to kill you, but then you've also got the fact that normally with Meg, you can counter her by getting close, but she always has a super to hand, so that's a lot of damage. And then, of course, if you're on top of Meg, she's just going to melt you with the amount of projectiles that she shoots. And then you've got the star power that knocks you back and deals 2.4k damage as well. All of this combines just means that she can even take out tanks when they're close to her, which is just insane to me. So I think she's easily one of the best brawlers in the game. I definitely recommend unlocking her. So now we're jumping into the best legendary in the game right now, and I think it's by a long stretch. It is Chester. So boy, Is Chester underrated? Why is no one talking about how strong Chester is in this meta? He is so busted in my opinion. I think you can play Chester everywhere. Of course, you might be limited in some maps on Bounty and Knockout, but everywhere else except outside of that, he's insane. Of course, the rework to his star powers just enables him to do a lot more consistent damage, but Chester's just always good for the reason that he's got a lot of good supers, like the fact that there's just so many different supers for so many different scenarios. For me, that's why I don't like Chester being meta, especially in competitive, because he's an RNG brawler. The fact that you can get very lucky and get like 3 dynamite supers in a row, and that can literally win you the game in Brawl, for example, or you could get really unlucky and just get 3 lose supers, for example. So yeah, I think Chester is just dumb crazy strong in ranked. I think my win rate must be near enough 100%. Seriously, he's that good. He's a good tank counter, and even with his hardest matchups, I think he can still win them with one of his supers, for example. And he also has a good amount of HP. He's got the fast movement speed as well. There's just hardly anything that can pinpoint that counters Chester in his meta. And you've also got to consider as well, he's a fantastic counter to the other meta lanes right now. You think of like Sandy, the big reason why Sandy's dropped off, it's because Chester does delete Sandy. You think of Gale, Chester in a 1v1 should be able to win that. It's just hard to pick a brawler that counters Chester. You get what I'm saying? He's very strong. I think he's easily the best legendary in the game right now. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down in the comment section below who you think is the best legendary right now and the worst one. Interested to hear. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.